This is the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson.
My goodness, thank you so much, and please be seated, my fellow Houstonians. Welcome to the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. I am the self-appointed president of Houston Sports, Nick Stevenson. As always, there's so many different things you could be doing tonight. Thursday night football is on, but if you chose to spend a little bit of time with me, either on the live or decided to check it out later, I appreciate you so much. Let me remind you of all the ways you can continue to support my work. Number one, you're doing right now. You watch, you listen. Hopefully by now you're clicking share and you're sharing with all your friends, your family, your fellow Houston sports fans. Let them know the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast is back in full effect, and we're trying to get some consistent content out there and grow the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check out all of my videos. Please hit the like if you will, if you like it. I'm not going to ask you to like it if you don't, but if you do, then holler at your boy. Help me out. I appreciate it so much. Another way you can help me out, if you look in the description of this video, you'll see my link tree. You will see a link to a tip jar. If you want to leave me a little tip, I would appreciate it. Anything you leave me goes right back into creating more content. And there's also some affiliate links for Houston Sports fan gear. If you're going to buy Houston Sports fan gear anyway, why not use my link and get me a little bit of change for it? So I really appreciate it. Once again, those are the ways you can support. But the number one way is what you're doing right now. Please like, please share, and please continue to check out the Houston Sports State of the Union. Today, we have a very good show. Is Kevin Durant the last hope for the city of Houston? The Astros missed the playoffs for the first time in almost 10 years. The Texans are 1-3 right now, and they're headed onto the road to play in Baltimore, a place they have not won. I don't know if they've ever won in Baltimore, but they've only beaten the Ravens twice, and I think it was at home both times. The Texans are 13-2 against the Ravens. But I have a feeling they might have a good chance to win this game, and we'll get into why. But the Houston Rockets right now, since they haven't started playing yet, they just entered their training camp. Media day was a couple of days ago. Obviously, the one person who was missing was Fred VanVleet, and that's going to probably be a big loss for this team. But at the same time, they have some depth, and right now, they're Houston's. It's seemingly they are Houston's only hope to have a good season and maybe even be in contention to win a championship. So we're going to talk about all of that and more. But once again, appreciate you guys for being here. Why don't we go ahead and get really quick into the state of the Houston Astros? I figure we can knock this one out quickly because I haven't been able to speak to you guys since the season ended. And I know I've spoken on how I feel about the Houston Astros many, many times. The question is, I've seen a lot of people saying, hey, it's time to rebuild. And that's a very interesting proposition. I remember after the 2005 World Series, the biggest problem that 2005 team had is they could not score runs. Their pitching was phenomenal. If you don't remember, they had Roy Oswalt, Roger Clemens, Andy Pettitte, Wandy Rodriguez, and Brandon Backey. And for a 4 and 5, Wandy Rodriguez and Brandon Backey were excellent. Brandon Backey pitched game 4 of the World Series in 2005, and he only gave up a run, and they lost 1-0. So it was clear going into that offseason that they needed some offense. And I believe it was 2006 that they signed Carlos Lee to the big contract. But in return, they sent Roger Clemens. They let him go. He went back to the Yankees, where he would eventually win another World Series. And Drayton McClain at the time was just basically trading his great pitching for one decent hitter. In hindsight, Carlos Lee getting a $100 million contract over 6 years. At the time, it seemed kind of ridiculous. But in hindsight, I think he played well enough to earn that contract. It's just the team wasn't good. And slowly but surely, it got worse and worse. The reason I'm making the comparison is if you compare, let's say 2005 was that team's peak and it started going downhill from there. If the peak for this team is the 2022 World Series And then on their way down, they missed the playoffs for the first time in almost a decade. Looking at this roster, is it a roster that needs to be rebuilt completely? Or do you have some pieces in place where maybe you try to do some type of soft rebuild? Well, it's all going to start with Jeremy Pena. Is Jeremy Pena going to be a Houston Astro? The way things have gone up to this point with Jim Crane is that these free agents that he has that are demanding these ridiculous, long, record-breaking money contracts, he's not keeping them. The only players he's been able to re-sign, and I don't know if this might just be coincidence, but he's been able to re-sign, obviously, Jose Altuve, a foreign-born player. He was able to re-sign Fromber to his first contract, foreign-born player. Christian Javier, foreign-born. These Latin players that come from other countries, they seem to be content with taking team-friendly deals because they're making more money than they could have ever dreamed of, whether it be in Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, wherever. Of course, Carlos Correa was from Puerto Rico. He went and chased his money, ended up right back here in the first place. So I just don't know. Yes, Jeremy Pena is Puerto Rican descent, but he's from Rhode Island, so he's an American. And I think he's going to try to go get the bag. And Jim Crane has demonstrated we are not going to pay these players these ridiculous amounts of money. At some point, there might be a player that's so good and so productive that he breaks open the wallet to keep them. But if you look at everybody he's let go, he hasn't made a mistake yet. The first one was George Springer. Everybody hated that. That ended up being the right move. George Springer has not been the same since he left here. Then it was Carlos Correa. That ended up being the right move. Then you had Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman had a great season this year. Would he have made a difference on this team? Possibly, just because of so many injuries, and he was healthy all year. So, and that's the number one reason I don't think it's time to rebuild. This team barely missed the playoffs after being one of the most injured teams in history. So that's why I don't think it's time to completely blow this thing up. You still have some pretty decent prospects, and you've got a solid roster. I mean, think about the fact that you'll have Isaac Paredes. If I'm not mistaken, you have him for one more year. You have Carlos Correa for 2 more. Altuve's got 2 or 3 more years on his deal. You still have, I hate when I do this. You still have Yordan Alvarez. You've got some pieces. And then you've got this young kid, Cole, who looked really good in the limited amount of time that he played. You've got a decent pitching staff still. What are you going to do with Framber Valdez? I know a lot of people are ready to see him go just because of all of his antics, and I don't really blame them. But I don't think you're at a point where you have to blow up this entire thing. Teams go through ups and downs, and I saw a lot of people commenting on the last TikTok I put out. I reminded everybody that back in December, I said, hey, if you were a fan of this team back when they had Carlos Lee, back when they had Miguel Tejada, back when, Bud Norris was our opening day starter, then you're going to be okay going through a little bit of a down year. And a lot of Astros fans who have been Astros fans for a long time showed up and said, hey, we ride or die with this team. I've been through the slim years. And they agreed with me. This team has given us a decade of wonderful baseball, wonderful memories, winning 2 World Series. I mean, trust me, going to other cities who either have not won in decades or never won at all. And we've been really blessed with the Houston Astros. So I don't think it's time to blow up the entire thing. Try to get healthy. Try to figure out why you were so injured this year. It may have been just a fluke. It may be something to do with the medical staff. I don't know. But try to figure out why. And I say run this thing back next season and see what happens. You probably got to figure out who your top 3 pitchers are if you're not going to keep Framber Valdez. Is it going to be Luis Garcia? Is it going to be Christian Javier? How long are you going to keep Hunter Brown? I mean, Hunter Brown's going to command some money. So I don't think it's time to blow the whole thing up. Maybe a little soft reset, but we don't have to go back to losing 100+ games a year. Not yet. There's still enough talent on this team that you bring in some pieces, you coach them up, and I think you still have a chance to compete for the next 3-4 years or so. All right, let's get into the state of the Houston Texans. All right, the Houston Texans are getting ready to head over to Baltimore, M&T Bank Stadium, a place I don't think they've ever won. I'm going to have to look that up really quick. They've only beaten Baltimore twice, and I know once was at home. I think the other time they may have won on the road by like a field goal. Once again, I forgot to look that up before the show started. Starting to have some technical difficulty, so you guys let me know if you're still with me. Let's see. Give me just a second. All right, looks good so far. Okay. Apologize for that. So, the Houston Texans heading somewhere they have not won in quite some time, but this is not your grandpa, your uncle, your brother, or even your cousin's Baltimore Ravens. Their defense sucks right now. They have the worst defense in the league. Secondary, giving up touchdowns to wide receivers like crazy. That's got to be good news for Nico Collins. I think they've given up 6 touchdowns in the last 4 games to wide receivers. The wide receivers are averaging a 105 rating against them. So what you hope is that means you can possibly have a breakout game for Nico and maybe get some of these other young receivers like Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll involved, Christian Kirk. I want to see some Texans wide receivers in the end zone. That would be great. They're giving up 4.9 yards per carry in the run game. So you just had a really good game from Woody Marks. Woody Marks ran the ball 17 times, had 69 yards, a 4.1 yards per carry average, right in line with what Baltimore's been giving up. He had a touchdown. And then out of the backfield, he had 5 catches for 50 yards, 12.5 yards per catch with a touchdown as well. I know it was against the Titans, but the Texans figured some things out on offense. And if they can build on what they did in that game, and I think the number one thing that you can take from that game is that C.J. Stroud was only pressured 29% of the time. That's almost half of what he's been pressured over the last 2 years. Over the last 2 years, he's been pressured 40 and above. And so in that first half, he was missing a lot of throws, even when he had time to throw. And I think what the issue is, and I will give some credit to my buddy Ruben Calvillo, who said he thinks his internal clock is just rushed because he's not used to having time to throw over the last 2 seasons. What up, DQ? He said belt to ass this Sunday. That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, especially, we haven't even gotten into this yet. I did a brief press briefing earlier today on this game. The number one thing going for the Texans right now is that Lamar Jackson might not play. And even if he does play, he's more than likely not 100%. He's got a hamstring injury. That's going to limit his ability to run, at least you hope. I'm pretty sure Lamar's played hurt against the Texans before and still beat our ass. But they're saying that he could be out for up to 3 weeks. So I will take my chances with their terrible defense if Cooper Rush is the quarterback against this defense. The Houston Texans defense, who has allowed the fewest points in the league through 4 games. The Houston Texans are the only team with a plus point differential that has a losing record. They're a plus 13. It helps that you held the Titans to 0. But look, man, they figured out a couple of things on offense. They played a relatively clean game. I know they had 6 penalties, but for them, that's actually an improvement. It was only for 50 yards. Listen, I want to see the Houston Texans take advantage of this bad defense, and I am not going to feel bad whatsoever if Lamar Jackson does not play. Because at this point, you're 1-3, and only 7% of teams have gone 1-4 and still made the playoffs. So your season is literally on the line, and so is theirs, which tells me there's maybe a good chance that Lamar does play. However, regardless of who plays, you have to win this game, and if it's a game you win because Lamar's not there, I don't care, because I don't want to start talking about the draft in 2 weeks. I need the Texans to salvage their season. So you win this game, you go into the bye at 2-3, and you're feeling really good about the next few games that you have against some relatively beatable opponents. DQ says we've played Cooper Rush before, so belt to ass. Absolutely. That was when he started for the Dallas Cowboys, and I didn't feel bad about that win either. Listen, man, in the NFL, a win is a win, and I guarantee you they're not going to give it back and say, oh, we're not going to take this because Lamar Jackson's not playing. I really don't care. Also, Marlon Humphrey will likely not play. Their defensive tackle, I can't pronounce his name, Matabuke, whatever. He's not playing. Derrick Henry's been fumbling. Look, this is not the same Baltimore Ravens team that has been giving the Texans fits all these years. However, you know, some of the familiar faces are still there. At the end of the day, John Harbaugh is a really good coach. And I'm not saying this is going to be an easy win. I know DQ says they're taking belt to ass, bro. I really hope so. Trust me. But even if it is Cooper Rush, until I see this offense, you know, consistently score in the upper to mid 20s, then I think I have them winning this game 23-17. I believe in this defense, even if Lamar is in the game. Now, they're going to have some sure tackling if Lamar is in the game. We can't have those missed tackles you had against the likes of Cam Ward, had a couple of big plays. Obviously, Baker Mayfield had the biggest play of their season against the Texans right now when he broke free from a sack that Henry To'oTo'o should have gotten. Man, I mean, the margins are so thin in this league. You know, I was talking to Ruben about it. I mean, you're 2 fumbles and 1 sack or 1 missed sack away from being undefeated. It's crazy. But I really have a good feeling about this game, especially because I said a few days ago that I wasn't going to pick the Texans to win. That was when I thought Lamar might be playing. Now that he's not playing, I'm going to go ahead and pick them to win 23-17. And my goodness, if they don't beat a Lamar Jackson-less Ravens team, then this team has more problems than we thought. It's okay to be a little bit delusional right now. Once again, I know it was the Titans. That was a bad team. I expect them to win this game. Can they take the bye week and reassess some things, watch some film? CJ's got to realize, hey, I think I have more time than I've been used to having, and start hitting those open guys, man. I mean, the Titans game could have been a complete blowout. You could have put up a 40-burger in that game because I've counted at least 3 plays where he missed a man, held the ball too long. It could have been even better. So against the worst defense in the league, I say do what DQ says and go take that belt to ass. All right, let's get into the state of the Houston Rockets. All right, the Houston Rockets right now, until the Texans prove otherwise, all of the hopes and dreams of the city of Houston are resting on their season. And unfortunately, as we learned last week, Fred VanVleet will not play this year. But the Rockets still have a really good team. Amen Thompson running the point guard. We've seen him do it. He did it for a very long time when Fred VanVleet was hurt last year, and he did so successfully. You've got KD. He's going to be instant offense. You hope that Alperen Sengun has improved offensively. I really am looking forward to seeing what Jabari Smith Jr. is going to become, both offensively and defensively. The question is KD going to be our only hope? Will the Rockets be our only hope? Is the loss of Fred VanVleet going to be too much? I think we're going to find out early. And I wrote an article for the Dream Shake a few days ago. At the media day, Kevin Durant said he sees himself signing an extension with the Rockets. He just doesn't know when. The question I asked is, could the early outcome of this season determine KD's future here? If he doesn't sign an extension before the season starts, if the Houston Rockets come out of the gate slow and don't have a winning record after 15 games, is that going to change the way Kevin Durant sees himself finishing his career in Houston, if that's what he wants to do? The great thing about KD coming here when Fred VanVleet was supposed to be the on-the-court leader is that a lot of people have said KD has leadership problems, not really what he likes to do. Fred VanVleet was supposed to be that guy. Now that Fred VanVleet is not going to be that guy, at least not on the court, will the Rockets expect Kevin Durant to step up and be that on the court, on the floor vocal leader? The good news for the Rockets is I still don't think they necessarily need him to do that. They have good veteran leadership. Steven Adams, now Clint Capella. They still have Jeff Green. And I think Ime Udoka is the number one motivator and culture setter in that locker room. So I think he's still going to let KD be KD. The question I'm going to have is Reed Sheppard going to be able to replace Fred VanVleet? You guys know how I feel about Reed Sheppard. I think he could be the next Chris Paul at his peak. I don't know if he's ever going to hit his peak, but he reminds me of Chris Paul. The way he plays the pick and roll, the way he gets his shot off over bigger defenders, the decision-making that he makes in the pick and roll, he just really reminds me of a Rockets era Chris Paul. Maybe not as athletic as he was back in the Hornets days. But listen, that's all to be determined. But the answer to the question is, honestly, right now, I do feel like it's on the Rockets to salvage this sports year for the Houston area and Houston fans because, unfortunately, I don't know right now. The odds are against the Texans that they're going to make the playoffs. So we might have the Astros and the Texans both miss the playoffs in the same year. And now, honestly, with Fred VanVleet not being there, I think the Rockets will still make the playoffs. But will they have a high seed? Will they have home court advantage in the first round? Will they even be able to get to the playoffs without having to play in the play-in? I think they're too talented not to, but the West is also loaded. The West is so packed. So, yeah, our hopes and dreams are resting on the Houston Rockets. And Kevin Durant, I hate to say this, but Kevin Durant has joined some teams recently, started in Brooklyn and then going to Phoenix. He's been on some teams that the expectations were high, very, very high. And then all of those teams fell short of what their expectations were going to be. And I'm not saying it's all Kevin Durant's fault. He dealt with some injuries. He had some other things going on with some of his teammates. But, I mean, yeah, Houston's hopes and dreams rest on the the knees, feet, and shins and ankles of Kevin Durant. They really do. So I'm really optimistic about basketball, though. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm still looking forward to the rest of this football season. It's still a good time to be a Houston sports fan. Trust me, there are teams that were out of the playoffs months ago in the MLB. We're so blessed to be fans of the Houston Astros. We're so blessed to be fans of the Houston Texans, who have won their division 2 years in a row, hosted a playoff game, and took belt to ass to their opponent in both of those playoff games. And then we're blessed to be Rockets fans who, listen, the Houston Rockets over the last 20 years have been a relevant team. They've had a couple of peaks and valleys, a couple of years where they reset and rebuild, but they're always in the mix every decade. And what more can you ask for? I mean, trust me, ask the Charlotte Hornets of the world. Ask some of the teams that are never competing. The Sacramento Kings were trash for so long. We're really blessed to be sports fans in Houston. And that's why I love being a sports fan in Houston, and I love doing this show. One more by DQ. He says, hopefully we don't depend on KD as much. That's what I hope. Listen, DQ, you make a very good point. Kevin Durant didn't sign here to be the best player on this team. Maybe the best offensive player, but he didn't come here to be the best player on this team. Alperen Sengun is still supposed to be the best guy on this team. Amen Thompson is supposed to be the second best guy on this team. Kevin Durant's supposed to be the third guy. That's why he's here. If you're depending on him at all times for all 48 minutes of the game to be the Kevin Durant he was 10 years ago, this Rockets team's in trouble. But if you can let Alperen Sengun and let Amen Thompson and let Tari Eason and Jabari Smith and the get ready crew on the bench, if you can let them carry you for the most of the game, and then you give that thing to KD in the fourth quarter and let him do what he do, then the Rockets are going to have a good season. So I'm really looking forward to it, man. Like I said, great time to be a sports fan in the city of Houston. I thank you guys so much for joining me for this Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. One more time, let me remind you of the ways that you can support me. One of them you're doing right now. Shout out to you, DQ. I appreciate you so much. You watch, you listen. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe now. Hit that notification bell. And I will leave my link tree in the description so you can find all of my socials to follow. You can find all of my content. If you prefer listening to your podcast, the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, Texans Bloodline, and the Twin Toros podcast, all of those are on listening platforms as well, whether it's Apple, Amazon, if it's iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. I will be so blessed and so thankful if you guys could go leave me a review and follow the shows on the audio platforms as well. DQ says, I was late, but I'll be back. Hey, man, I appreciate you, DQ, so much, man. Thanks for hanging with me tonight. I'm going to say this. Go Texans on Sunday. Go Rockets. You guys get healthy. Let's start this season off with a bang. And I'm going to see you guys on Sunday after the Texans hopefully get a win against the Baltimore Ravens. In the meantime, I want you to stay 10 toes down for the H. I love you and good night.
Sports Podcast. Tune in next week for more news and analysis of your favorite Houston teams. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, the app, formerly known as Twitter, if that's even really still a thing. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.